Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Judith Patterson. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Texas, and on Fridays, I love to share how to create a card out of one of Stampin' Up's catalogs. The last few weeks, I have been showing cards from the Celebration brochure, but Celebration is over, so now I'm going to go back to our mini catalog. This catalog runs through December 2021. I almost said 2020, but it's through December 2021, and I'm going to be creating this card on page 47. So it's this one right here. If you've watched one of these videos before, you know that sometimes I create the cards exactly as they are in the catalog. Sometimes I make a couple little changes. Sometimes I make some big changes. So this one, I've created a sample. And I did make a couple of changes. Nothing huge. This background piece, I used the Bark 3D embossing folder to create this background here. But on the card that I'm creating in this video to show you, I will be using the Simply Scoring tool. Looks like this. So I'll be using this to create that background piece just like they did in the catalog. The other change that I have made, well, I've made a couple, and I'll just go through them as we go. But let me switch cameras so you can see my desk, and we'll go ahead and get started. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to begin by taking this card base. So I've already cut a piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock in half. So this is 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches. I'm going to score, I've scored it. Now I'm just going to crease it really good. At 4.25 inches. And then I have this piece that I'm going to be scoring with the scoring tool. It's 4 inches by 5.25 inches. So with the narrow edge at the top, I'm going to go in at 3/8 of an inch, whoa, and 5/8 of an inch. And then 1 3/8 of an inch, and 1 5/8 of an inch. And I'm just going to keep going down on 3/8 of an inch and 5/8 of an inch, and score all those. I'm going to go back over everyone just to make sure they're scored well. And then I'm going to turn it, and with the long edge along the top, I'm going to go along at 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch, 1.5 inches, and 1 3/4 of an inch. And I'm just going to keep going on the 1/2 inches and the 3/4 inches all the way down. And then I'm going to go back over these to make sure I did a good job. And then when I flip it over, you can see it gives it kind of a plaid look to the paper. Okay, so then I'm finished with this. I don't need it anymore. I'm going to put it away. And then I'm going to get out my Stamparatus just because for this next step, it helps to have something that's holding down your papers. And I like using the magnets on my Stamparatus for that. So I have gone ahead and cut out a piece of Pattern Party Designer Series paper. This is cut 4 3/4 inches to 3.5 inches. And then I just grabbed a piece of paper out of my printer, and when I cut it, I used the same die cut, and I added one of the circles from Layering Circles. And I went ahead and, whoa, let's start to the magnet there. I went ahead and used washi tape to hold down the dies before I ran it through, so that my circle was cut exactly where I wanted it to be cut. I tried just freestyling it once and everything was off center. So this way is definitely easier and in the long run much quicker. So then I just line everything up, and I know that my circle is going to be where I want it to be on my designer series paper. I'm just going to use these magnets to hold these pieces down. I've got my Full Party ink pad and a blending brush. This is the one I use for my blues. I'm just going to get a little bit of Pool Party on here, and I'm going to start over here on the scrap paper from my printer, and then go towards the center of the circle. That way I don't have any big ink blotches on my paper that I'm gonna use. If I end up with any big blotches, they're gonna be over here on my scrap paper. So then I'm just gonna go over it a few times. I don't want it too dark, but I definitely want it dark enough that you can see the blue, and that I have a crisp edge around the edge of the circle. I think that's probably good. So now I'm finished with this. And you don't have to have a Stamparatus to do this. You could also just use washi tape, or if you have a good craft tape. I just like to use that because then I don't have to worry about my paper tearing whenever I pick it up. And those magnets are really strong, so it's holding down both layers really well. Okay, so next up, I'm going to put this right here so you can see it too. So the next thing that I'm going to do, oh, let me backtrack just a smidge. So I used the scalloped contours dies to do this layer. I didn't use the biggest one, but I used the next to biggest one. But in the catalog, they said they used Stitched So Sweetly dies, which is, those are similar to these, but I don't have those. So I used the scalloped contours. Okay, so I'm just going to grab a scrap piece of basic white cardstock. I'm using Melon Mambo and Mango Melody to stamp the leaves. I'm just going to open one color at a time. If you've seen me stamp before, you know I can get messy. So I'm going to stamp off once, and then I'm going to stamp my leaf on my scrap piece of paper. I'm going to close up this Melon Mambo and go ahead and open the Mango Melody. I'm going to ink up this larger leaf, stamp off once, and then stamp it on my basic white cardstock also. Looks great. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab my mini Stamp Cut and Emboss machine, and I'm going to use the Intricate Leaves dies that coordinate with these gorgeous leaves stamps to cut out these two leaves I stamped. And I'm also going to use this leaf here to cut out a scrap of crumb cake cardstock. So our card base is Sahara Sand. I'm going to do crumb cake for this little leaf. And I am going to, let me make sure you can see that. I am going to hold this down with washi tape so that it doesn't wiggle too much as I'm running it through. If I can get it lined up. Looks good. Okay, and then I'm gonna do the same thing with this one. Okay, and this one, I'm just gonna go ahead and place it on here. It's got plenty of room. I don't have to worry about it getting wonky. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to use my liquid glue to glue these stems together just a little bit. This is just to keep them from moving around when I'm tying some linen thread around them in a minute. I'm actually going to turn this over and put it on the back of this leaf. There's no telling what kind of disaster I would do if I tried doing it right here. Okay, so there's that. Then I'm going to take this one, do the same thing. I'm really not using much glue at all. Oops. There we go. So while that is drying, I'm going to get a scrap of basic black, get the static out of it, and you can use a used dryer sheet to do this as well. I'm going to stamp it with Versamark, and I'm using the Thinking of You stamp from the Beauty of Friendship stamp set, which is not the set that they used in the catalog. Okay, I'm going to cover that with white embossing powder. And I'm going to set it with a heat tool. Okay, that looks good. So the one that's in the catalog, this one here, and the sample that I made also, I used the peach dies right here. I used this one to cut around the sentiment. This is just a little bit too long, so instead of using the die, I'm just going to use my paper snips, and gonna first cut it smaller. Gonna cut around the bottom and cut a semi-straight line across the top. It'd be much straighter if I used my paper trimmer. Then I'm just going to cut an angle off of each end. There we go. And I may go ahead and trim that down just a little bit more because this is kind of big. There we go. Okay, so now it's time to put it all together. All right, so this part, you can use Stampin' Steel Plus. Of course, I'm gonna grab my handy multi-purpose liquid glue. Make sure I'm on the front of the card. Make sure it's opening the correct way, I guess I should say. Okay, and then this next piece, I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm going to use 2 more just to make sure it doesn't sag in the middle. Just center this. And now these are looking good. I'm going to get that linen thread. And just tie a bow around these. There we go. I'm just going to trim the ends off. So they left their ends really long for their linen thread. And the sample in the catalog, I tend to usually not have my ends be that long, just simply because I think about what it's going to be like putting it into the envelope, and I don't want there to be ribbon just hanging out everywhere whenever I'm trying to stuff a card into an envelope. I want it to be an easy process. Okay, so I'm using Stampin' Dimensionals to attach these to the front of the card, and I am overlapping them a little bit so that they're sticking down both of these leaves. There we go. And then this piece, I'm gonna use a black mini Stampin' Dimensional. Actually, I'm gonna use 2 on the of you side, or that end of it. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of glue on the other end. That way I can overlap the leaves that are popped up on dimensionals, and it's not gonna be uneven. There we go. Okay, and now the final piece for the front of this card. I have these silver and clear epoxy essentials. So I'm just gonna grab the clear ones, and I'm gonna use the circles and just put those in different places around the card. I'm using 5. It's always good to use an uneven number. I think I need a little bit more putty. There it goes. one right there. And there you go. So this is the one that we just made. This is the one that I created before the video. So just a couple of small differences. And then this is the one from the catalog. And again, just a couple of small differences, nothing major. So for the inside of the card, I have a piece of 4" by 5 1/4" basic white cardstock. And I'm going to just grab that Melon Mambo ink pad again and that leaf. I'm going to stamp off and then just stamp the leaf along the edge. And that's it. Nothing too crazy for the inside of the card. And this Sahara Sand card base is light enough that if you don't want to add another piece to the end of the card, you absolutely do not have to. I just like doing it. I feel like it gives it a more finished look and shows you where to write. And look at that. A boo-booed. You can barely see it. So hopefully whenever I write over it, you won't be able to see it at all. But there you go. There is our card from the catalog for today. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button down below if you haven't already. I would love for you to come back and watch more videos. So on Tuesdays I upload a video, and then on Fridays I upload a card from the catalog. I'm also going to be going live on my Facebook page at 3:30 Texas time on Thursdays. So I'd love it if you could join me there. I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for watching my video, and happy stamping. Bye-bye.